New Jersey, 2003. The public image of a hospital is one of hope, a place of healing. But behind the closed doors of medical centers across the United States, a nightmare was unfolding unseen. This is Charles Cullen, a registered nurse, a family man, a dedicated employee, and for nearly 2 decades the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. Born in 1960, Cullen had a childhood marked by loss. The youngest of 8 siblings, he lost his father at 7 months old and his mother in a car accident when he was a teenager. After dropping out of the Navy, he enrolled in the Montclair School of Nursing in New Jersey. In 1987, he obtained his license. On the surface, it was a fresh start, a medical professional ready to save lives. His first job was at the St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey, in the burn unit. And there it began. The first confirmed death occurred in 1988. A judge, John Yengo, whom Cullen administered an overdose of intravenous medication. Cullen initially denied it, but the terror was only just beginning. He moved from hospital to hospital, 9 different medical institutions in 16 years. A tragic routine was setting in. A new job, a few months of good performance, then increasing suspicion among staff about the unusually high number of sudden patient deaths under his care. But each time, before a serious investigation could take hold, Cullen was allowed to leave. He would either resign or be quietly fired. No hospital wanted to admit that a killer might have been working under their roof. No hospital wanted to take responsibility. They preferred to let him become someone else's problem. This silence, this lack of communication between medical institutions, was Charles Cullen's safety net, a bureaucratic failure that allowed a killer to continue. By 2002, Charles Cullen had arrived at Somerset Medical Center in Somerville, New Jersey. Here, the number of mysterious deaths began to seriously alarm someone. Patients who seemed to be recovering suddenly died due to unexplained hypoglycemia or cardiac arrest. Cullen's method was simple and effective. He accessed the computerized medication administration system, ordered large doses of drugs, and administered them to patients. Digoxin, a heart medication, or insulin, a drug used for diabetes. Digoxin in high doses caused heart failure. Insulin, administered to a non-diabetic patient, caused a fatal drop in blood sugar. Both were difficult to detect in the patient's blood upon autopsy. Cullen always ensured the patients were not being treated with these medications, making the deaths appear natural, unexpected, but natural. The young nurse, Amy Loughren, who worked alongside Cullen at Somerset, was the first to notice the pattern. She noted that Cullen was unusually accessing the files of patients not assigned to him, and that he was discarding medications in the hospital trash, a blatant violation of protocol. Loughren began writing down her observations, despite the risk of ridicule. She realized that behind Cullen's gentle face and quiet demeanor hid something terrible. In 2003, Loughren confidentially contacted the New Jersey State Police. Without Amy Loughren, the Cullen case might have dragged on for years. The police launched a secret investigation. They used Loughren as an undercover investigator. The stakes were immense. They needed to catch Cullen in the act or obtain a confession. They could not risk alerting the hospital or causing Cullen to disappear. The police, along with Amy Loughren, set up a meeting. Loughren, wearing a hidden recording device, invited Cullen to meet at a local restaurant. There, she began to press him, presenting the evidence, the hospital records, the abnormal insulin doses. Cullen, initially defensive and evasive, gradually gave in. A part of him seemed relieved. He began to talk. It had to stop, he told Loughren, referring to the pain and suffering he saw in his patients. This was his first attempt to justify the horrors he had committed, a false mercy, an angel of death who believed he was shortening suffering. Shortly thereafter, on December 12, 2003, Charles Cullen was arrested. During interrogation with detectives, Cullen made a shocking confession. Initially, he admitted to killing approximately 40 patients. As police showed him medical records, the number grew. Law enforcement believes the true number of his victims could be as high as 400, making him the largest serial killer in U.S. history, although he only pleaded guilty to 29 homicides. His motivations: he insisted he wanted to end the suffering of patients, an act of subversive euthanasia. However, many of the patients he killed were not terminally ill. Otto Schunk, a 72-year-old priest recovering from surgery, was one of his victims. Cullen killed him with Digoxin, claiming he wanted to save him from future suffering. This justification did not stand up against the evidence. Cullen felt powerful and invisible. He played God, exploiting the patient's vulnerability and the negligence of a medical system that was unwilling to admit its mistakes. In 2004, Charles Cullen pleaded guilty to 29 counts of murder and attempted murder in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. On March 10, 2006, he was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He is serving his time at the Trenton State Prison. For the victims' families, a profound grief and a question remain. How many lives could have been saved if the hospitals had communicated with each other? Their anger was directed not only at Cullen, but also at the system that protected him. The Charles Cullen case is a story about a monster, of course, but it is also a story about accountability. A story about the quiet heroism of one nurse, Amy Loughren, who risked everything to bring justice. And a story about the painful lessons a society must learn when trust in medical professionals is betrayed in the cruelest way possible.